If you love dark, slow-burn single dad romances built on quiet tension, accidental intimacy, and the kind of desire that grows stronger the longer it's denied, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next story. Tonight's story is: the single dad shared a long train ride with her. Neither of them slept. The train is already moving when she sits beside him. That's the first thing Daniel Reeves notices. Not the sound of her back brushing his knee. Not the faint scent of rain and perfume that clings to her coat. Not even the way her thigh presses lightly against his as she settles into the narrow seat. It's the motion. The steady pull forward. The feeling that once this starts, there's no stepping away. Daniel is 42, broad-shouldered, clean-cut in a quiet, unassuming way that makes him easy to overlook. He's learned how to exist without drawing attention. After loss, anonymity feels safer, predictable, controlled. The overnight train hums beneath them, metal and momentum carrying strangers through the dark. The lights inside the carriage are dimmed, soft enough to blur edges and make everything feel closer than it should. She exhales slowly once she sits, like she's been holding herself together all day. "Sorry," she murmurs. "It's more crowded than I expected." Daniel shakes his head. "You're fine." Their eyes meet briefly. She's white, early 30s, hair pulled back loosely, a few strands already escaping. Her face is calm but tired, the kind of tired that doesn't come from sleep deprivation alone. There's awareness in her gaze, a quiet sharpness. She turns toward the window, watching the city lights fade into darkness. Daniel does the same. He tells himself it's just a train ride, just a few hours, just proximity. But the space between them is small enough that he can feel her warmth through fabric. Small enough that every shift of her body registers before he can stop noticing. The conductor's voice crackles overhead. Destination. Duration. No interruptions expected. 8 hours. Daniel closes his eyes briefly. She doesn't speak again for a while. Neither does he. The silence isn't awkward. It's alert. Like both of them are aware that talking would turn something on they aren't sure how to turn off again. Hours pass in fragments. The train slows, then speeds up. Stations blur past in darkness. Other passengers drift into sleep, heads tipped back, bodies relaxed in ways Daniel can't remember how to manage anymore. She doesn't sleep. He notices because he doesn't either. At some point she shifts, crossing one leg over the other. Her knee presses fully against his thigh this time. Not accidental. Not careless. She glances at him. "Sorry. These seats aren't exactly generous." Daniel swallows. "It's okay." It's not. But he doesn't move away. Neither does she. They begin to talk softly after that. Quiet things at first. Where they're headed. Why they're traveling so late. Neutral details offered carefully. Like both of them are testing how much weight the moment can hold. She's relocating for work. Temporary assignment. New city. Clean start. Daniel nods, understanding more than he says. "I used to like trains," he admits. "Before everything else got loud." She tilts her head. "What made it loud?" He considers deflecting. He usually does. Instead he says, "I lost my family." The words land between them, heavy but unpolished. She doesn't gasp. Doesn't apologize. Doesn't soften him with pity. "I'm sorry," she says quietly. "That kind of loss stays." Daniel looks at her then. Really looks. "You speak like someone who knows." She meets his gaze without flinching. "I do." They don't elaborate. They don't need to. After that, the silence shifts. It deepens. Becomes charged instead of cautious. She takes off her coat, folding it onto her lap. The movement exposes her wrist, her collarbone, the subtle curve of her neck. Daniel looks away immediately, jaw tight. He feels her notice anyway. "You're very controlled," she says lightly. He huffs a soft laugh. "You say that like it's a compliment." "It is," she replies. "Most men don't bother trying." That makes his pulse jump. "You shouldn't encourage bad habits," he says. Her lips curve. "I wasn't encouraging." The hours stretch. At some point the carriage grows colder. She pulls her coat back over her shoulders but doesn't put it on fully. Daniel hesitates, then reaches for the blanket tucked beside his seat. He offers it wordlessly. She accepts, fingers brushing his. The contact is brief. Electric. She wraps the blanket around herself, but it barely covers her shoulders. Without thinking, Daniel adjusts it, tucking it closer. His knuckles graze her collarbone. She inhales sharply. Their eyes lock. Neither of them pulls away right away. "Thank you," she says softly. "You're welcome." The air between them thickens after that. She shifts closer under the pretense of warmth. Her shoulder rests against his arm now, light but deliberate. Daniel feels every breath she takes. He stays still. Not because he doesn't want to move, because he wants to too much. "You ever notice," she murmurs, "how trains make everything feel temporary? Like you can be someone else for a few hours." Daniel exhales slowly. "I try not to be anyone else anymore." She smiles faintly. "That sounds lonely." "It can be." She studies him for a moment. "You don't feel lonely right now." The observation is intimate, unsettling, honest. "No," he admits. "I don't." Her fingers curl into the blanket at her chest. "Neither do I." The train sways gently, rocking them closer with every subtle shift of the tracks. Her head eventually rests against his shoulder. Daniel doesn't stop her. He adjusts just enough to make her comfortable. She sighs, content, eyes closed but not sleeping. Neither of them sleeps. They exist in the in-between. A shared stillness that feels fragile and dangerous and necessary all at once. At some point, her hand slips against his. Not fully intentional. Not entirely accidental. Their fingers brush. Pause. Then she laces hers with his. Daniel's breath catches. He doesn't pull away. He tightens his grip instead, just slightly. Enough to acknowledge the choice. She smiles without opening her eyes. The train races on through the dark. When dawn finally begins to lighten the horizon, they separate slowly, reluctantly, like waking from something that mattered more than it should have. The station announcement crackles overhead. Her stop is first. She stands, gathering her bag, her coat, her composure. For a moment, she looks like she might say something profound. Instead, she leans down and presses a soft kiss to his cheek. Not rushed. Not hidden. Just real. "Thank you," she whispers, "for staying awake with me." Daniel watches her walk down the aisle, heart pounding in his chest. The doors open. She steps onto the platform. The train moves again. Daniel sits back, fingers still warm where she held them. He realizes something then. It wasn't the train ride that kept him awake. It was the feeling that for the first time since loss reshaped his life, someone saw him and stayed close anyway. And that kind of intimacy changes everything. The train doesn't slow again for another hour. Daniel tells himself he should sleep. His body hasn't rested properly in years, and the steady rhythm of the tracks should make it easy. Instead, every sense remains awake, tuned to the presence beside him like a low, constant current. She shifts again, restless but quiet. Her head lifts from his shoulder just enough for her to look at him. "You're still awake," she murmurs. "So are you." She smiles faintly. "I thought maybe you were pretending." "I don't pretend very well anymore." That earns him a soft laugh. Not loud enough to draw attention, just enough to feel personal. She straightens slightly, adjusting the blanket, then hesitates. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel nods. "You already are." Her eyes hold his longer this time. "Does it scare you? Letting someone this close?" The honesty of the question hits deeper than flirtation ever could. "Yes," he answers without hesitation. She nods as if she expected that. "Me too." The admission changes something. It strips the moment of pretense. They're no longer just two strangers passing time. They're two people actively choosing not to retreat. She shifts again, this time deliberately turning toward him. Their knees align fully now. Her thigh presses into his, warm and solid. Daniel's jaw tightens. "Tell me to move," she says softly. "And I will." He doesn't. Instead he says, "If you stay, it won't be casual." Her breath hitches. "I wasn't asking for casual." That's when her hand returns to his. Not tentative. Not testing. Her fingers slide into his palm, warm and sure, as if she already knows the answer waiting there. Daniel closes his hand around hers. The contact is grounding, intimate, feels heavier than a kiss would. Outside the window, darkness gives way slowly to faint gray. Dawn approaches without urgency, as if even time understands this moment deserves to stretch. She leans closer, voice barely above the hum of the train. I didn't plan to feel this tonight. Neither did I. Her thumb brushes the side of his hand, slow and absent-minded, yet devastating in its simplicity. Daniel feels the shift in himself, the place where restraint gives way to want, not recklessly but intentionally. He has spent years guarding against feeling too much. Tonight he allows it. She studies his face, the faint lines of exhaustion, the discipline etched into his posture. You look like someone who hasn't been touched gently in a long time, she says. The words undo him. He swallows. I forgot what it felt like. Her other hand rises, hesitates, then rests lightly against his chest. She doesn't push, doesn't explore, just exists there, palm warm through fabric. Daniel exhales slowly, eyes closing for half a second. No one has touched him like this since loss taught him to flinch. Is this okay? She asks again. Yes, he answers. Just don't rush. I won't. They stay like that for a long time, her hand on his chest, his fingers intertwined with hers, bodies aligned but controlled. The sensuality lives in what they don't do, in what they're deliberately holding back. Eventually, she rests her forehead against his shoulder again. I don't even know your name, she says quietly. Daniel. She smiles. I'm Claire. The name settles into him easily. Nice to meet you, Claire. She laughs softly. We're way past that. The train slows slightly as it approaches another station, lights flashing briefly through the windows. Neither of them moves. Neither breaks contact. Do you believe, she asks, that some people meet at exactly the wrong time, and it still matters? Daniel thinks of his daughter, of the way love never leaves even when the person does. Yes, he says. I think that's the kind that stays with you. She tilts her head, looking up at him again. I'm glad it was you. The words are simple. They devastate him anyway. When her stop is finally announced, neither of them reacts at first. The moment stretches, fragile and aching. She pulls back slowly, regret already softening her expression. I wish this train were longer, she admits. Daniel stands with her, heart steady but heavy. So do I. They linger in the aisle, too close for strangers, not close enough for promises. She reaches up, fingers brushing his jaw this time. The touch is brief, deliberate, intimate. I'm not going to forget this, she says. Neither am I. She kisses his cheek again, slower than before, then presses a folded slip of paper into his hand. Just in case, she whispers. The doors open. Cold morning air rushes in. She steps onto the platform, turns once, meets his eyes, and then she's gone. Daniel returns to his seat slowly. He opens the paper. A name. A number. Nothing else. The train moves again. Daniel leans back, eyes closing, her warmth still lingering on his skin. For the first time in years, he doesn't feel empty when someone leaves. He feels awake,